I'm questioning my life choices right now because after squats, after the Bulgarian split squats, my quads are already pretty pumped. Hey guys, welcome to my beautiful yet messy garage. Train with me today while I take you through a lower training workout in my strength block. And I'm also gonna give you some tips and tricks, some common mistakes that I see beginners make. So let's go. I think the worst thing is the bar is so cold. So usually first thing I have to do is just sit down here for a second. Everything is cold. My body is not warmed up. So I'm currently in a strength block, which is probably my favorite block because hypertrophy is just a lot of reps and it's exhausting. And then peaking is just so heavy that it's also exhausting in a different way. But strength block has to be my favorite block because you get to go a little bit heavier and less reps. So it's kind of that in-between stage between hypertrophy and peaking. So yeah, let's get to it. I'll actually try to do some blocks without knee sleeves, but quite honestly, when it's really cold, I prefer to wear knee sleeves. It just helps me descend more confidently. They're different colors. People get, so why are your knee sleeves different colors? Because I just grab whatever's on my messy desktop here. It's a knee sleeve. They're exactly the same thing. They're just different colors. Okay, so one of the biggest mistakes that I see beginners making is when they're getting underneath the bar, kind of just getting underneath it any old way, and then doing this kind of staggered stance walkout. I used to do that. I think it's like a bodybuilding thing where it's like, oh, I can just get out because it doesn't matter until I get here to squat. When the fact of the matter is, setup is everything. You want to get under the bar really tight, and it should be uncomfortable. You're uncomfortably tight. Bringing both of your feet together. This way, you can use a little bit of a hip hinge to stand the bar up and then walk it out. The easier the walkout feels, the stronger mentally you're gonna feel, and the easier and more confident the descent will be. As I get ready for my top set is 105 kilos. You'll notice that when I started with the bar, it was 8 to 10 reps. My reps get fewer as I get closer to that top set because I don't wanna like overly fatigue myself before I get to that top set. So just did a single with this, and then I'll add the 105. Also, if you're using the app, it'll give you the warm-ups. You know, I'm rating it, it felt good. If it felt terrible, I would hit this and it would lower my top set. If it felt just on fire, it would give me a little bit more weight to use. I'm just gonna go middle of the road and then it'll populate to the working sets here. And then I'll just start, and again, easy day, I just have 2 sets of 5. I hope it's not a struggle, we'll see. As you're working up to your top set, make sure like your warm-up sets are the same as your heavy sets. So you'll notice like I grab the bar in the same spot. I always kind of hit my chest and then get under the bar and get tight. So my setup is exactly the same if I'm doing the bar or if I'm going up to my top working set. And that's really important because you wanna make sure that that becomes like an ingrained movement pattern and you're not just doing something new and novel when you just get to your top set. The more things that you can do that become just automatic, the more automatic your top set is gonna be. I feel like it always feels harder when it's cold. The app needs, is it cold in your garage? Let's do 10 more warm-up sets. Split squats are the freaking worst. I think like if there's any leg movement I hate the most, it's definitely like lunges of any variety. When I do my split squats, easy way to figure out how long your stance should be is, you know, stand with your legs right against the box or the bench and just kind of take your regular step forward. And that's gonna be right where you need to be. When I do mine, I'm doing a quad focused emphasis. I like to make sure that I keep my knee over my toe as I'm going down. I like to descend slowly and get a full stretch at the bottom. So you're not doing partial range of motion here. We're gonna go all the way down, really get a good stretch and come up and make sure that my back leg is just supporting and not actually doing the work. I want this front leg to be the one that's driving through the floor and doing all of the load or majority of the load. When you're doing single leg work, it's always preferable to start with your weaker leg first. This way you don't get so exhausted from your strong leg that when you get to your weaker leg, you just can't control it or feel it as much. So start with your weak side first. So next up, I have these hill elevated goblet squats. I really love these because with the elevated hill, it really just fires the quads. Although I'm questioning my life choices right now because after squats, after the Bulgarian split squats, my quads are already pretty pumped. I'm gonna go ahead and make sure that I control the descent on these as well. And as I'm coming up, I'm really gonna squeeze my quad, you know, little bodybuilder in me. We'll see if I can make it through 10 reps here. by the end, I feel like I stopped going slow. Let's just get it over with. Oh. Next up, I have dumbbell RDLs. You'll see that I'm elevated for my RDLs. Reason being is I have pretty good mobility, so I'm able to actually go a little bit lower than normal. So having this little bit of elevation is gonna allow me to get that extra range of motion and really put some more emphasis on my hamstrings and my glutes. Only do this if you're able to actually get here without doing this type of movement. You still want to make sure that you have good neutral spine. Key thing with RDLs is you can have a slight bend and you really just want to hinge. So once you get that bend, the knees don't bend anymore and you're just going to hinge back your butt going straight back behind you, getting that good stretch. Last but not least, have abs. I'm doing banded crunches. If you've seen me do these before, this is an exercise that was given to me by my PT, Pei, from Australia. She's amazing. I tend to be an extension a lot. So we're really trying to make sure on these that I'm focusing on really getting into flexion, kind of really over-exaggerating the rounding of the back. And it actually does put more emphasis on the midsection here. Typically when people do this, they're like this, and they're kind of just going through the motions versus really almost like a cat-cow and going straight down. And that's really helped me overcome like a lot of back issues, especially lower back issues, by really training, instead of being always in extension, really focusing on getting into that flexed position. And it actually really targets the transverse abdominals, which has helped stabilize my pelvis and my back. It's made everything feel so much better and actually helped me actually really target the midsection more than ever before. The other cue we've used a lot to kind of like cue that kind of flexed position. We get a lot of flack for this because people just don't understand it. It's the pee in mouth cue. And it just sounds very crude. Sometimes you just need that cue that's like, oh, okay, this really resonates. Like it makes me understand what we need to do here. And the reason it's called the pee in mouth cue is because you're kind of thinking about, you know, if you were gonna pee in your mouth, you would kind of rotate your pelvis in like that. And it does actually help put it all together, because a lot of times we'll go like, oh, get into flexion. Like, well, what does that mean? Like, I don't understand. So if that helps you understand it, feel free to use that cue.